Yo, just started going through these questions. Came across a little video that the vegan freerider put up asking, "Is this correct?" Let's have a listen.
Na, 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 na,
Oh, sounds good to me,
na,
mate. Very
na,
good.
na, na, na,
Ah. As you get to that sustain,
na.
na 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 na. Drop that jaw. I'm putting my hand here because it's easier for me to find that note, believe it or not. Put that hand there. Sorry, let that jaw drop and na and open up and keep it held there. The only problem at the minute, the coordination's bang on, but it just needs to be loosen up this jaw. Na and let it spin up there. Na 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 na. Yeah, scooped up to it, but you get what I mean. My technique wasn't perfect, but it's good enough to show you what I'm talking about. Drop that jaw and let it spin. Yeah, let it spin. Sounds like you're a nice tenor voice. It's going to be easier for you to get up there than it is for me. So good luck to you, mate. You're a good singer by the sounds of it. Where was that in the questions? It's about there. Let's go through it. I uploaded a 6-second video of me doing an octave scale on Na. Short analysis, tell me where I'm applying what you said. You navigate your bridge. You're navigating your bridge very well. The compression's even. No sound of disconnection at all. Compression's even. You're tilting up there. You're doing good. And like I said, loosen up that jaw and let it spin up there. Float. Sit on it. Yeah. It's a bit like this. You lift the bag up, and sometimes you're like, oh, it feels like it gets a bit stiff. You've got to just keep the muscles that need to be engaged, relax everything else, and just let it boom, let it flex. Yeah. Carry on practicing. If not, should I carry on practicing it like this? Do it. No, keep practicing like that. Yeah, doing good. At least until I can make some time lesson with you. I normally don't take this high at the moment. I go as high as B4, but I decided to take a little higher for the demonstration. Well, you should be quite confident that you can get up there because there's very little strain there from what I can tell. The thing that is, as you go higher and higher, you've got to commit more and more. And it gets scarier and scarier, believe it or not. That's half the battle is, will you commit 100%? Because if you don't, it totally collapses. Whereas in chest, if you don't, it's no big deal generally. Before I think I answered that all right. So let me just check the levels here. I'm recording, and yeah, just ignore the pants in the background. I had to do my washing. I just got back yesterday. Right, let's start from the first question. What is the story with your facial hair? Where do you see yourself in 7 years? My facial hair is just because I'm lazy and I don't end up shaving very often. I'm working on Thursday and I've not been working at the venue I work at for about 2 or 3 weeks. So I will have a shave tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow or tonight. So my beard will be neater by tomorrow. Lol at that first question. It's a good question. Where do I see myself in 7 years? 100,000 subscribers, better videos, better music, better singing, better technique. Not much else really. Hopefully a girlfriend one day, that kind of thing. Right now, that's my life really, is just focusing on the music and getting this up and running more. I actually looked for 2 questions from the last Q&A. They seem to have vanished, so I don't know if they were the people that put them up deleted them or what, but there are 2 questions that I remembered from last time that I didn't answer because they were after the Q&A. They've gone, so I don't know where they've gone to. I want to know about how some tenors mix all the way up to G5 crazy high. Well, it's a mixture of genetics and skill, and there's always a balance there. So if you've got thick long chords, like some of us lower tenors out there, it's going to be harder for you to get up to the G5s. Another example would be Jimmy Necco, very thick, heavy voice. He can get up there, but it gets very heady. I can get up there, but it's much headier type of quality typically than say a Glenn Hughes or someone that gets up there more pharyngeal. I think I could get higher, and I've not really got up to G5 on a light mix or a mix. I'd say probably like F, a little bit below that, E, F, but I want to get higher. I'm working at strengthening those muscles, to be honest, right now, so we'll see where I get to. But like I said earlier on, it's a lot of commitment. You've got to have like balls of steel sometimes just to totally go for it, you know. And I'm somebody that's a little bit scared when I sing, so for me that stuff gets scary. But how do they get up there? Well, if they've got shorter, thinner chords, they've got a better shot at getting up there in a mix. But they still have to develop crazy levels of skill. So a lot of practice, a little bit of luck in the genetic lottery, so to speak. But you know, those lighter tenors tend to lose out. They've got very little bottom end in their voice compared to the bigger voices. So there's always trade-offs, you know. It's never a win-win. It's always a win-lose. Do you know of any exercise that lengthen your chords while maintaining chord squeeze on the arytenoids? Yeah. Most exercises, if not all, if they're done correctly. The squeaky door is a good one. You can do like a and you're always looking for that. What happens with most people is they go up higher. Nope. Those chords are going to be lengthening. But you're not losing the compression. So the trick is, as you get better at your practice, is once you start doing this and you get to this point, that bit you're losing coordination. So you're going to reset. And keep going, and then keep resetting until you lose the coordination again. And there. Yeah, and as soon as this happens, nope. Yeah, so every single time I'm going up, I'm making sure I reset that arytenoid closure every single time. So it's mostly a learned thing. I've learned to make sure that I'm paying attention to the right details. Any exercise, that squeaky door one's very good because each time you reset the compression, that's the arytenoids squeezing back down, and the arytenoids kind of come outwards like this, and the chords kind of come together. So basically it's those muscles that are engaged in the closure for you, and then the tilt is taking you up in pitch. Refer to some of my old, the few science ones I did quite recently. I'm stepping on this mic, so you might be getting loads of, yeah, look at that. Sorry, I won't step on the mic anymore, but I'm not going to restart the video. Right, next one. Yeah, the other one for arytenoid squeeze and getting that, that's probably the best one because it helps you to isolate the chords, get rid of the variable that's the mouth, and just work on flexing the right muscles in here. And the squeaky door helps you engage compression and thin the chords out at the same time. It's a good one. It's one of the key exercises in the Singing for the Stars book that I had years ago by Seth Riggs. It's probably still around somewhere, but that was like the next step type exercise. It's a very, very good one. Very healthy for you as well. Doesn't necessarily teach you how to sing perfectly, it teaches you the vocal cords and what they're doing perfectly. If you can master it. It's a hard one to master. I'm experiencing a lot I'm experimenting a lot with compression and wondering if you could tell me what to look to avoid in over compressing. Okay, when you over compress, I feel the line between adequate and too little, too much is hard to find. It is at first because the adjustments you're making feel so tiny. When you get better, when your skill levels improve, the adjustments feel broader again. Yeah? I remember when I first started adjusting this the right way with a teacher, it felt like my boundaries of adjustment were here, and all of a sudden, boom. I've got autofocus on this camera, which is fuzzing it up. Let's see if I can just turn that off. Display video, configure video. I can, yes, which means you won't be getting fuzzy every 2 seconds. Apologies, guys. We're having so many technical hitches today. What am I doing? Back home. Right. Back to this. The teacher put me in this area and I was like, oh my God, I felt like I was having to learn to tightrope walk. It was a nightmare. So at first it's difficult. The more subtlety and skill you develop, the boundaries feel broader and broader again. Yeah, but at first it will feel like a tightrope. The way you determine it is there a roundness to the resonance in the sound? When I overcompress, wherever it is, the sound starts to dull. And what I mean by that is when you're singing a pitch, there isn't just one note. There's actually a bunch of overtones layered up on top of that. And when you overcompress, when you squeeze too much, the overtones disappear. You lose the split and balance of resonance. And you get you lose the top layers of resonance, or the top frequencies in the sound that give it that kind of roundness and clearness, that kind of like almost like a bell type of ring. But basically, once you start feeling or hearing that, there's a kind of squeeze on the sound and it gets dull in its quality. It's quite subtle, but then you don't hear any real very good professional singers getting to that point because their skill level's high enough that they don't ever overcompress typically. So it's typically a problem with intermediates and beginners, obviously none of which are successful singers, at least not particularly famous anyway. All the famous ones do pretty well on compression generally. So where was I? Yeah, you've got to attune your ear to listening out for the dullness or the deadness in the sound. And the way you can make sure that it's right often is just go to falsetto first before you squeeze down. That way you're separating the release and the closure into two separate parts, two separate boxes in your mind. I talk about this all the time because it's so key. The biggest skill you've got to develop is understanding that pitch and compression are two things that, whilst they work together and interlink, they can function quite separately, a lot more separately than most people realize. Again, once your skill level improves, all of this stuff becomes more clear, but you're looking to avoid that deadness, that and you're looking The other way you can tell is when it over squeezes, it tends to feel like it's trapped in the throat. Like it can't get out, almost like it's the sound's kind of stopping here. Yeah, when you feel any resistance in terms of the sound feels like it's stuck, it's generally a sign that it's too squeezed, it's too held on to. Yeah, when it's correct, bang, there should be no resistance and the sound should hit right here. Right here every time. Yeah. It's always here, the resonance. But when it's over squeeze, I lose this. Yeah, and that's what I mean. You can actually feel the loss of those top frequencies in the sound. So that should give you some information about it. In SLS theory, there's a lot of talk. Sorry, I'm just checking I'm recording. I keep panicking because I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this content. Am I recording? In SLS theory, there's a lot of talk about pharyngeal resonance and the term edge. Can you please explain what these actually are, how to know when they're being used? And when they're Okay, so these terms, typically, people overthink them and they start to separate a lot of different things out that don't really need to be separated. So edge is generally a closed sound that's very low in volume. So yeah, it's that really like right here, like I'm yelling at you, but it's not. It's like I'm yelling at you, but it's not very loud. It's a bit weird, but that's edge, yeah. That's all it is. It's just a type of sound, and what it is there's very little air passing over the chords, just enough to get some type of phonation going. And it's almost like on a vocal fry, but it's not quite. But it's kind of the quietest coordinated sound you can make, basically. The point is, though, that the chords are, it's very low volume and the chords are together. A lot of people, when they sing more quietly, it goes airy, rather than crying on the pitch. They will tend to push it and lose coordination. So it teaches you to sing quietly with control. That's all it is, really. Pharyngeal resonance will be in everything you sing. People tend to get too caught up in the different types of sounds, and sometimes a singer will be lacking in a certain type. So if they're lacking in pharyngeal, you might lead them in that direction by giving them a lot of like nay 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 and getting them to exaggerate that nay 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 nay, so they get a little bit more of that quality into their sound, because it helps them release towards head, even on the even on the sounds that have very little pharyngeal resonance. But let me just, okay, so pharyngeal, what we're talking about is when the resonance basically goes behind the soft palate and starts drifting up into the head cavity. I lose pharyngeal when I darken up the vowel like that. You can hear that. You can hear more resonance going behind the soft palate, versus when I have very little resonance going behind the soft palate. Yeah. Now, we got to learn to thin out and coordinate any type of sound, whether it's bright, dark, pharyngeal, whatever type of quality it has. In the long run, we got to just work to thin everything out towards head. What people typically find, at least with a lot of guys, is they're so trapped in the mouth. Go 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 go. They can't get through. They can't get through the passage. They can't release up higher. So sometimes the best thing to do is just get them to close the mouth and make these kind of type sounds. Because when you do that, the only way to make that is to send it behind the soft palate. If it doesn't go there, if it stays in the mouth, then you just don't hear this. So as soon as that's there, it's like impossible to make that sound without going behind the soft palate. So it releases you up into head. Yeah, it releases me up into head. Then after the fact, go 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 go, I can go back and start darkening up the vowels again, but making sure that I am releasing into the right position. Yeah. Pharyngeal just helps you find the middle in a lot of ways. It helps you find, right, this is where I'm going, this is what I need to get through. A lot of the time what people have is they have thick heavy chest and then just area falsetto, and they're like, how do I link those two up? Well, the way you link them up, back to the squeaky door, which is again pretty much a pharyngeal exercise. It's right here, yeah. So I don't sing everything there, but it helps me helps me coordinate up through the bridge with ease. helps you with the middle. Basically, you can think of this chest at the bottom end is the bias of resonance, pharyngeal in the mid is the bias, and the fluty head quality is towards the top. But I don't want you to get confused with that, because basically all three of those are always in the sound. If you've got a balanced mix, you've always got, even in chest, if I go wee wee wee, you can hear e, you can hear e, and you can hear yeah, you can hear pharynge, chest, and you can hear all three. Yeah, you know, I was going back to what I was saying about this loss of the top resonances. That's the thing, is when we lose the e and the in the sound, that nice three-way combination that gives us that rounded type of sound. When we lose the e and the and we just have mouth resonance, it's just not round. It's not. It doesn't. It's dead. The quality of the sound is dead. So the pharyngeal helps us find the mid-range, but just keep in mind that it gets very deep and complicated. So I'm trying to kind of keep this brief for the sake of the questions, and you've probably got a load more questions that have just come up in your head with me saying all that. But anyway, thanks, bro. You are really great. My question: how will people react to my song? This is the question which makes many new singers sick, and me too. Well, it makes me sick now. Typically when you start, not very well. That's the truth of it. But the only way for you to get a good reaction is by getting a lot of bad reactions, a lot of and through that experience and time and work, you'll start to get better reactions. I still get crappy reactions. Sometimes I get people that, you know, the last shows I did recently, the last three I had, one show that was just like, you know, 5 or 6 people came up to me afterwards and said, wow, that was amazing. The next show, people, you know, it didn't go well, and people didn't even really notice. The next show, I think I got one person that said to me, oh, that was cool. But, you know, it just swings in roundabouts. But typically as you get better, you get more of the good and less of the bad. But at first, you just have to deal with it. Part of learning to sing is dealing with rejection, dealing with not being very good, and realizing that you'll come out the other side eventually if you put enough time and work in. How to gauge compression and airspeed by vocal cords. Well, I've kind of gone over the compression. The airspeed with the lip rolls, you can just monitor it like that. This is a representation of what's happening in here. That's why it's so useful. When we're squeezing too much here, these will stop vibrating evenly. We want a nice even airflow. And conversely, when the chords come apart, yeah, we see it here. So you can use these lips to monitor the airflow and the compression and how those two things are interacting. When it's even, yeah. Yeah, as I'm going up there, I'm watching these lips and I'm making sure I've got yeah, that proves that the airflow and the chords are in sync and working correctly. So that's your best bet. High notes don't sound compressed enough to make it sound crystal clear. How to fix this? My high notes sound like they are in the airy, sound like they are in the middle of airy and chord closure. Okay, so basically there's two camps. A lot of people either squeeze too much or they squeeze not enough, and if whichever's your typical habit, eventually you're trying to get to the middle where you're squeezing just enough. So we could go to lip rolls. If you're lacking closure, typically anything like the squeaky door would be a good one. No, no, no. No, 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 good, good, good. Anything that helps you engage some compression on the way up. But basically, good, 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 good. You have to make sure you've got equal pressure on each note. Yeah, when you lose some of that pressure, goo 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 goo. When you lose some of that pressure, the chords start to come apart. So you need to make sure goo 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 goo, and you have to consciously adjust it. And at first, it will take a lot of effort if your habit is to not compress enough. But after you consciously adjust it and give it some time, the new muscle memory will start to establish. The old one will let go. So think of it like this. Sometimes rather than trying to adjust what you already have, you're just trying to start a new habit and establish something new, see what happens. The pharyngeal, the na na na, or the nay nay nay, nay nay nay, nay 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 nay. That's quite good for establishing some compression. Brings the larynx up a little bit, which typically holds the chords together a bit more firmly for beginners or intermediates. And the thing is, when the chords come apart on a nay, 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 it's very obvious. Nay, 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 this part of the sound, that part doesn't change relative to the pitch. Nay, 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 yeah. So I'm looking for equal ultimacy, equal pressure on each pitch, and that will give you more of a sense of an understanding of compression and closure. Part of the chord closure equation is just doing it over and over again and raising your skill level. Yeah, it takes time to have completely even compression through your bridge. It's not something that you'll just get instantly, and even if you get it quickly with a coach, it's something that will still take you weeks or potentially months of drilling over and over before it's really solid on different types of vowels, when you're singing lots of different words very quickly, these kinds of issues. Yeah, so it's not something that clicks straight away. Accept it takes some time. Learn your compression, learn your closure. Sometimes as well, if the larynx is creeping up, go 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 go, it will kind of get the chords to come apart. So if you're panicking and the larynx is creeping up, go like right here, wee 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 wee, go 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 go, and see if you can get some release going. So could be two things. Make sure you're releasing up into head correctly, as in it feels very free and kind of loose up there, it's not stiff. And making sure you've got consistent closure through there. If it sounds airy, it's either going to be a lack of release generally or a compression issue, one of those two things. So work on your heady tones, work on making sure it's free up there, and then work on nice even compression through the range. And that's all I can give you for now. Right. While rocking in high belt mode, I don't know if I can ever rock in high belt mode. Why are some words just too hard to make sound good with practice a lot of time? Is it possible to achieve the sound so it never gets better about range, just a bit? Yeah, so some vowels are harder to sing than others, no doubt, even when your technique is bang on. Some vowels take more effort. Doesn't mean to say that they're technically not correct. They take more effort, and actually some vowel combinations and consonant combinations take more skill to sing than others. Talked about this in another video I just did, or coming up in the next couple of days, about consonants and how some help you and some don't. But certain combinations of vowels and consonants will help you get to the pitch free, and others will not help you at all. So you've got to find it off your own back without the handrail. So this is very normal. Eventually, the vowels and the consonants won't matter that much because you'll understand what's going on. But in the short to medium term, some vowels and consonants in certain combinations are harder to sing. You have to just accept that and do your best with them. There are certain little tricks that you can do, like modifying vowels, which we hear a lot about. Little things, like if you have a word like take, you could make it to nake or gake, something with a consonant to hold on to help you, and then go back to the take, this kind of thing. Little tricks that you can do to get the coordination, and then go back to the word that's harder. But in the long term, it shouldn't really matter. You shouldn't really be feeling that. All you should really be feeling is, oh, this is a wide open vowel, so I'm going to have to put a bit more basically a bit more oomph into it to get there than if it was a narrower, headier type of sound. Yeah. But what you're saying is normal. It's just part of learning to sing, and you will get better, and it won't feel like that so much as you get better. I think there's nothing like hitting a high note full speed, just natural, free, great feeling. Yeah, it can be, especially when you nail it and it's totally coordinated right. It's like gives you a lot of confidence. I am having a hard time getting from the pianissimo. I just need to check the time. I'm teaching soon. I'm having a hard time getting from pianissimo head voice to light mix. Trying the bratty nay exercise, but I can only do it at a really quiet volume. Can I do it loud? I can do it loud up to B3, and then anything above that gets distorted unless I push. Do it again, passing B4, how I straight the mid. Way straight the mid is go back to squeaky door. Don't change anything with the middle. Let it drift up. Yeah, pianissimo at first, or any sound. The easiest place to establish it is just to let it flip up there and get there free. So, you might get there. That might be the first spot you get to. Yeah, on the squeaky door, you can try and establish a bit of closure there. That might be the first experience a singer's ever had of finding some compression in their mid-range. And that's all they need at first. Yeah. I'm right here. And this is kind of towards a pianissimo. It's not very loud. I'm right here. Yeah. They're not as far apart as people think. This pianissimo, this edgy type quality, and that just pure falsetto. In fact, mix isn't even far from there. Na 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 na. Yeah. So if I let this drift up first, just falsetto it. I'm right here. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not really a mix. It's like a light kind of edgy sound, but you can hear. It's the thing that's happening that people don't get is this motion. If I go like this, I got to find closure there the right way, and this is the key. What people tend to do is they get there, and they go, they go back to the habit of pulling, which isn't going to get them the right closure, rather than going here, and then finding. And the motion is just it's this it's that versus it's that. No matter where you are in the range, it's that feeling, whatever that is, that arytenoid squeeze, whatever you want to describe it, but it's that feeling of it's just that. That's all it is that you need to find for compression. The thing is, in chest voice, people will go They'll find it no problem without any pull. But when they've got the habit of pulling, as soon as they're up there, they want to come up drag everything up from the bottom versus there, yeah? That's where the compression is. But you notice how it's not that. And that's what trips people up, is that they so used to dragging weight up from the bottom that to find the right kind of compression in head for them is like a total minefield. It like screws with their mental state, can do, because they're like, oh, I've been doing it that way for so long and now I've got to do it this way. And yeah, it can really mess around with your head. So that's how you find the pianissimo, or just some closure up there in the mid-range. And that's how you're going to do the Adam Levine and the Timberlake and the Bieber, is to find compression the right way, the healthy way, rather than the pull-up. It's all about avoiding the pull. I have no question. Sorry, I have one more question. It's about vocal health. How do we know if our vocal cords are healthy, not being compromised, caused by allergies? The only way to truly know will be, I'm just going to read the rest. Clearly have issues. There's excess phlegm, mucus in the vocal channel. Naturally. You can do things like make sure you drink a lot of water, healthy diet, no fried foods, these kinds of things, no dairy, the typical pointers that a lot of coaches do give you out there. What I would say is that, and this is from somebody that suffers from some allergies and some postnasal drip, this kind of thing, my vocal cords often swell up for a week or two and I have to sing on that heavier type of feeling. It's not great. The vocal cords aren't going to be damaged by a little bit of that swelling. If they're healthy, you'll notice it even in the talking voice if they start to not be healthy. It's usually girls that struggle a bit more with vocal cord actual problems in terms of hemorrhaging or bleeds on the cords or anything like this, nodules. Their cords are very thin and very short, and they are more delicate, shall we say, than the longer, fatter cords that us guys will have. So they're more frequently diagnosed with these kinds of vocal issues. But the cords will thicken up and thin out just on their own, whether you've got allergies or not. Just based on your general well-being. If you're a little bit under the weather, it tends to come in peaks and troughs. Like the last 3 or 4 days, my voice has been good, but then the week and a half chunk before that, my voice wasn't great. My voice was a bit thick. It was hard to get release, and that's just normal. The question is, can you sing on good technique regardless of how the chords feel and day to day? What's going to hurt you in terms of long-term damage is pulling chest, pushing through technical problems and not learning your technique like rock solid. Outside, which does, if you've got some allergies and things, that doesn't really have any impact on your ability to learn technique. It will make it harder here and there, but you can still get it done. So don't worry too much about damage unless you're feeling pain on the vocal cords. Then you need to go see an ENT, because I can't diagnose what's wrong. So if it's not hurting, it's generally fine. And learn your technique. Sing through the mucus. What's his name from Singing Success used to, he's got a lot of allergies. Billy DeVell Jr., I think his name is, from memory. He sings like a madman, full out, up through into third bridge and stuff in full voice, crazy stuff. He's got allergies, so look him up and follow him as a mentor. He's just learnt the technique, and usually you can sing through the phlegm as best you can, and just good technique will fix so many problems, much more so than not eating cheese or being very careful about your diet. That will maybe have like 5-10% of an difference on what you're doing, your diet. Your overall health will make some difference, but technique will make 80-90% of everything you do. So worry about that. Come back to your diet and all that stuff once you've mastered your technique, which is going to take most people 5 to 10 years anyway. And then worry about the other 10% afterwards, is what I say generally. I used to have all sorts of paranoia about, I've got postnasal drip, I've got reflux, I've got all this stuff. I went to ENT. This is years ago, like 10 years ago. And eventually I realized there's nothing wrong with my voice. I'm just a crap singer. And I went from that. I started from there, and from that moment on, I always that's the way my mind's worked. So that gives you some backstory. Not got that many left, and I've got some time. So I can do exercises with compression. My voice sounds clean until I start to sing. Everything becomes breathy and squeezed. Can you help me fix this? Problem is more towards my chest voice. When I sing higher, for some reason I don't have this problem. Yeah. Over squeezing chest voice is something I've done loads in the past. Chest voice, because it's so free and so loose, it can be really easy to over adjust on, especially around middle C area for guys. It can be a nightmare for people that want to get involved too much, because there's so little to hold on to that it can just feel freakishly vulnerable, and it's not even high, so it's weird in that respect. If you can do the exercises well, it doesn't always immediately transfer into singing. When you're doing exercises, you're isolating, you're taking out variables and you're taking out problems that you need to solve when you sing. Yeah. So in a lot of ways, exercising is easier than singing. In some exercises, mine are more difficult than singing, but I'll come on to that another time. Typically, as beginners and intermediates, a lot of the exercises are going to be easier than singing songs. You get a lot of help with the different consonants. You've got a very even scale that goes up and down a broad range of pitches, whereas in songs you're normally working in a narrower range of pitches. And you've also got lost my train of thought. Yeah, you've also got things like where the mouth is closed and it's not moving, so it's completely out of the equation, so to speak. So there's a lot of help and kind of handrails you get when you're learning with the exercises that you don't have in songs. So typically what people master first, or at least get pretty good at, is the exercises, and they struggle to translate it into singing. I had this for quite a while, and then something happens. They kind of get to a tipping point where all of a sudden there's a bit more synchronization between their technique and their singing. Eventually the exercises become kind of harder than singing, to be honest, because some of the exercises, like short scales with open vowels, short scales with vowel transitions that have no consonants, like ooh, ooh, oh, ah, this kind of exercise, short, transitioning between vowels without any help, that is harder than singing most songs. So a lot of exercises get harder than songs, and when you're at that point, the exercises, the easier exercises are no problem. You get to some tricky ones that are hard to master. Then you go to sing a song and you've got loads of help, because you've got different consonants and things and like loads of crutches to help you along. So it's hard for all of us. Master the technique and just trust that you can transition it. Another thing that happens is people have sung a certain way their whole life, and they start on technique and they're learning these new habits. But when they go back to singing, they've got the old habits that are drilled in. So they've got this battle that goes on between the new habit that wants to establish and the old habit that is not desirable. And so, unfortunately, there's this battleground. And depending on the singer and how much fortitude they have, how strong they are mentally, if they're willing to see that through, then the new habit can cement. The old habit drifts away gradually over time. This is the kind of thing that a lot of people learning to sing in their 20s and 30s that have an old habit, this is the battle they face that the young'uns don't face. So everything you're saying there is normal. The exercises are more tricky at first. Give it time and do your best to see if you can sync them up. Things you can do, like, you know, if you've got you can replace the lyrics with exercises to get the coordination, and then put the words where the exercise was, these kinds of things. So you're trying to get them to come together more and more and more, rather than this big disconnect, which is typically what happens when people start. Just work at it, man. It will take time. Based on what you're saying though there, like, I've been through that and I came out the other side, so I trust that you will in time, and if you're going to put the work in. I am keen on singing pop and soul music and would like to know how important vibrato is. I guess it's kind of important. Certainly important to be right. I've been unable to develop it. Do you have any tips? Yeah, I'm going to do a video on vibrato, which I'm going to put a note to do right now, because vibrato video, because there's probably it's a good topic. and I've not really done videos on it before. So stay tuned for that. It will be up in the next, probably in the next few days or next week, and I will talk about it then. Okay, so I understand the harder you train, the more you focus on it, you're bound to make progress. But how long does it take? Say the average to pretty good. Go from average, decent to pretty good, great. I'm saying opinions, but we know when you hear a really bad singer. I do believe years or decades. Well, I still sing badly all the time. You know, I did a show recently where I was like, ugh, that was crap. The problem with good, average, great, all these terms is they're so relative to where you're at as an individual. Good when you're a beginner seems like very different to when you're much, much better as a singer. And so you keep in mind it's always a relative term. But I would say on average, people that work very hard, basically you don't really get round the 10,000 hour rule. So in terms of getting to a master level, as in very, very good singer, you're looking at putting in a significant amount of work over a period of years. Now, most of the progress will happen though in the first probably 2 to 4 years. Most of the progress and understanding happens, and then after that, there's a kind of a learning curve which is very steep at first, and then as you get better and better, it mellows off more and more and more to where, you know, over a period of a year now, you know, I'll feel I might have one breakthrough where I'm like, bang, that's taken me to the next step. Whereas when I started, I was having those breakthroughs, you know, every few weeks at first when I really started to get into it. And so, but over time, it's a bit like, you know, if you're playing a game like World of Warcraft, with the first 10, 15, 20, 30 levels go by really, really quick. And then each level, you know, each 10 levels after that, it gets more and more of a grind. It's the same way with learning to sing. So the short answer really is it depends what age they start. Mostly because the longer that the younger they start, the less bad habits they have established, and the cleaner slate that they're learning from, and the more time they have to learn. As the older you've gotten, the more bad habits you've developed, and the longer that's going to take to undo and go back to the start and start over. So, whilst, I mean, I'm proof that it can be done, because I started at 22, 23, and, well, probably 23, 24, really, around that area. And I had a lot of bad habits, a lot of push, a lot of strain. And in 10 years, I managed to get rid of that and sing pretty freely up high. So it can be done as an adult. I've got no doubt about that. And I believe I could have got it done probably in my 30s as well if I'd have started now. Would I have wanted to? Probably not, because it just so happened that in my 20s I didn't have a girlfriend. I was working sporadically here and there. I had a lot of time on my hands. No kids, so I could just grind away for years. If you've got wife, kids, a career, these kinds of things just take away so much potential time that you could invest. So the answer, I said the short answer, that was not a short answer. Short answer is it depends how much baggage you've got when you start, how much practice you're doing day in, day out, all these kinds of variables. There's an infinite number of variables. Where you start out just in terms of your skill level, if you've played another instrument, I had played guitar for quite a few years before I started singing. That gave me a massive advantage over somebody who's never played music. You know, if you start with, you've never done any music in your life and you start wanting to learn to sing at 23, you know, you're in for a tough ride if you ask me. But if you've played other instruments, you get a lot of advantages for, so it depends is the answer. But I'd say think about it like this: 10,000 hours, boom. Plan for 10,000 hours. If you get there before then, great. If not, you're going to get there in 10,000. 3 hours a day for a decade, boom. Let's go. Okay, thinking again. I don't know what Frank's thinking about. I think he's got the last question. How many bridges does the voice have? Also, after navigating through the first, are there new coordinations to learn? Don't get too hung up on the bridges. Yeah. The way I see it is the bridges don't really exist. And that's a controversial statement for a singing teacher. But they don't exist in the sense that people think they do. They think they've got to do some funny kind of fiddling around to get through their bridge, when in fact most of the time they've just got to learn to get out of the way more. And I've talked about that in videos recently. Navigating the bridge, I think they were called, but go look at those. How many bridges? Well, the voice will just keep going up and thinning out until the muscles can't stretch the chords out anymore, and that varies based on your gender, how long your vocal cords are, how much practice you're doing, how strong the muscles are that are coordinating those chords. A lot of factors. Yeah, it will just keep going up. You know, for women that have very thin, short chords, they'll go up into whistle no problem if they're letting their voice thin out. Whereas us guys typically won't get up there as frequently, and even when we do, typically not as high as easily. So that should give you an answer. How many bridges? It basically keeps going up. You know, the world record, Adam Lopez, I think he's got the highest note ever sung. It's like above the top of the piano, and it sounds like a dog whistle. I think he can go up to pitches that people potentially can't even hear very well, because it's so high that the human frequency range doesn't even hear that high. I don't know. I'm kind of half hypothesizing. I watched a video a while ago. I've got some memory of him saying that it's so high that people can't hear it. But yeah, it will just keep going up. Those songs that are quite just out of your range is a bummer sometimes as a singer. You've got to accept your personal range. We're all so close, but so different that the mystery is magic of singing, man. Motherfucker. Yeah. Alright, Carl, thinking still. Okay. He's still thinking. Anyway, this is half a question, but it's a bit of a balance. I used to sing stuff that was out of my range even up until a year ago. And I watched some songs I put up a year and a half ago. And sorry, the roof of my mouth's itching. And they were pulled chest, not really a mix, a bit not quite in my natural range. But what I've always found is you've got to have some push in terms of you've got to be working outside of your comfort zone to expand your comfort zone. So there's a little bit of a balancing act between singing within your comfort zone during performances and practicing outside of your comfort zone, so you can develop your skills more and more and more, which broadens your comfort zone, etc., etc. Unfortunately for me, I'm quite stubborn and I don't typically sing in my comfort zone enough, which is something I'm working on. But yeah, it's a conundrum that we all deal with. And that is the end of the questions. And that's my horrible face. So I will see you in another video, guys. Hope you enjoyed these Q&As. I'll put this up, and please comment, rate and subscribe if you enjoy. See you later. Bye-bye.